Hey, welcome to Late Night Gaming. I'm Poem. I'm with Woo, and we are going to be doing something a little different today. We're going to be discussing cards that we personally overrated and underrated when we initially reviewed them. And so we each prepared a list of cards, and we're going to go through and just kind of say, um, what, like, you want to explain it a little bit better, Woo? Like,
Yeah, just cards that we feel like our initial impressions were incorrect in one way or another. It doesn't mean that the card itself is really good or really bad. It just means our initial opinion of it has changed pretty significantly since the initial review. So there's going to be four cards for the overrated pile for each of us and four in the underrated. And we'll just say a few words on them.
okay, so we'll start with cards that we underrated. So we again, they're maybe a little bit better than we had anticipated. So, Wu, do you want to tell us your first card?
Yeah, my first card's is Viper Probe. Um, it's not one that I don't think this card's like fantastic or anything, but when I initially looked at it, it was like way early when the set first came out. I just thought it looked like complete filler, and it just so turns out that three power on a two cost card is actually pretty important in this game. I actually don't really think its ability is even the relevant part. I think just like if it was just 3-2 with Imperial, I'd basically have the same opinion of it. Uh, but there aren't very many cards that have that much power at two cost. Um, so it's just been kind of important.
Yeah, I think that three attack can help clear up some of the heroic units and things like that are statted with that three health. It's an important um, amount of damage to deal with a opener. All right.
Yes, sir. And what was your first?
So my first card that I underrated is Surprise Strike. So let's see here. Surprise Strike. Yeah, Surprise Strike. Um, yeah, this is an interesting one. There was all these different events that had come out initially, and it was like hard to discern which ones were going to be the best, things like that. Um, because I'm not like an aggro player, I didn't really see like the merit with this particular card. But the way the game is, the meta game has shooken out. Um, as we've gotten more of the set, it's become more of an aggro based kind of game, and it's just trying to melt your opponent is one of the leading strategies, and I think this card is like incredibly important for that. You might even play it out of aspect, things like that, to to
Well, I
push.
don't. I don't think you should play it out of aspect, but I agree with everything else you said.
If you're playing like a mono red Sabine or something trying to burn, you might pay for this to clinch the game and just resource it if you get it earlier than that. It's that good, is what I'm saying. I think it's
It's also good outside of aggro, right? It's like one of the best ways to actually like kill leaders in this game.
yeah, it's a really good card, and I was wrong on this one. All right, you want to tell us your next card?
Yeah, my next is Force Choke. Um, this is another one that was like from the initial pool of cards. I think now it's basically the best like single target removal card in the game. But when I first looked at it, I saw your opponent draws a card, and I was like, this is a 2-for-1 in your opponent's favor. It can't possibly be good. I was very wrong about that. I'm very high on that card right now. That's where I am.
Yeah, good solid removal, cheap, lets you keep playing your units and stuff like that, and be able to deal with the board. All right, my next underrated card here is this guy, Agent Callus. So this guy comes in. He can kind of 2-for-1. You know, you target him on somebody that's gonna hit him for three or something, and then he's body left over You might get a card draw or two off of him. He's just he's super crazy good, and I don't think I saw that power level when I initially saw this card. It wasn't really something that jumped out as me as to me as being that good, but he's definitely one of the top cards in the game, top 10 or something. He's crazy.
Yeah, he really is good. And I think the fact that he's in green is actually kind of what puts him there, right? Because he usually doesn't. He usually comes out and turn earlier when you're playing green, and because of that, he basically kills everything that your opponent could play at 4 cost or 3 cost. Um, Less effective when he's matching up against other opponents' 5 cost cards, but yeah, that green synergy, that coming down early, great way to like gain back the tempo you lose from ramping.
All right. What's your next underrated card?
All right, next one. I got a lot of flack about this one. It's Luke's lightsaber. I think my initial downgrade on this card is mostly because it's so situational. But then again, you always get to play Luke. When you have Luke as your leader 100% of the time, unless you die before the 6 energy turn, you get to play Luke. So it's not that hard to make this card work. Just need to play your leader. And I think I almost put Vader Saber on this, but this one's so much better than Vader Saber that I let this one do the speaking.
This card is just incredible. I mean, the shield that you get, the healing if he had taken some damage. I mean, the upside on that is insane. And then just it's a solidly statted upgrade, so it's just doing so much for you. This card's incredible. We just need some more Lukes too. This card just gonna keep getting better. All right. So my next one here is outmaneuver. So again, I think we saw this card and we thought it was just some weird combo thing that they put in the game, but nobody's going to use it. And I do think this card has. I've seen it kind of blow people out and things like that. And I think even as we get even more cards in the future, I think there might be a stall type deck. Like you just freeze, and then you can wipe, and then you play big ships or something. I think that could exist. I think that again, I've seen this like you play a space deck, like a space Han or whatever, and then you outmaneuver to freeze their entire like ground units, and then you clean up for the win. I've seen that executed. It's basically a win condition in that particular Han deck. So anyhow, I think outmaneuver has some utility. It's an interesting card, and I think it will see play. But
Yeah, I've upgraded my estimation on it to not playable to sideboardable. That's kind of like so it has grown in my estimation too.
yeah, I think it's going to be a card that, again, it's going to be part of the game that we have to understand this card's around. All right, what's your next one, bud?
All right, my last one is Bamboozle. This card is another one of those like commonly dismissed cards in the same vein as what you just mentioned, Outmaneuver. I was pretty low on it at first, but then I actually started playing it because I was trying to get a certain amount of hero cards in Sabine once that card for a cost to believe in came out. I was like, you know what, this one's free sometimes. Let's try it. Turns out free cards are pretty good. That's that's all I got. It's the card disadvantage on it, not that major when you're trying to end games early. I don't think you really ever run out of resources in these aggro decks, and being able to leverage extra cards, just dump your hand. This can swing and completely swing a turn. It can completely swing a race. It's like a mini outmaneuver, right? It's an exhaust on one thing, but you can do it for free. So, uh, I don't think it's some world beater, but think it's kind of playable, and definitely did not think that at first.
It's interesting. You stumbled upon this conclusion just by having adding this to your Sabine deck or whatever, just because you needed hero cards for a cause I believe in,
Yeah,
and so you're just like, I need a hero card, and then you're like, I'll play with Bamboozle, and then now you like the card. It's interesting how that
yeah.
transpired. Alrighty. So my last underrated card here is Metal Ceremony. Again, I don't think I was like incredibly low on this, but I definitely wasn't high on it, and I think I'm pretty high on this card now. It does, like you said, maybe initially, and have grown your thought of this over time, that it puts units over certain breakpoints for removal and things like that. You play like a wing, you put a wing leader, get some experience on it, and then you get a metal ceremony, and all of a sudden they can't take down, and it's just like, what are they gonna do? Like, how do you stop that? It's crazy. So there's certain instances like that where this card just kind of can win you the game in that way. So
Yeah.
I think this card is incredibly good.
Yeah, I think maybe it got tunnel visioned a little bit that it's really hard to meet the full criteria for it, but not remembering enough that sometimes just one experience from this card is enough.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, we like that one. So, what's your first overrated card? And you want to? I guess we explained that what that was already, but
yeah, cards that we initially thought would perform a lot better than they currently are performing. I think some of these are actually pretty good. It's just that I thought they'd be better, maybe.
okay.
So the first one I want to put up there is kind of, I think probably the one that I was the most high on and has have come down on a little bit is Bright Hope. Still think the card's very strong. It's just sometimes a little awkward. That 2 power on it is not very effective at dealing with a lot of things. So you often need to find ways to buff it, which is possible. Its main use is just to stall, which is relevant, especially when people are trying to attack you with A-Wings all the time. But at 4 cost, this getting bounced or getting kind of dealt with in some way is sometimes annoying. Then again, I still will probably play this card in most green hero decks that aren't just like smashing face. So I still think the card's good. I just thought it was a lot better at first.
Yeah, we were kind of, what's the word, like chortling, I think is the term. Just sort of, we were giddy about this one maybe initially, and we've come down maybe a little bit on that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I feel.
Okay. So my first overrated card here, if I can find it. So it is Asteroid Sanctuary. And I definitely have to eat my hat on this one. I think in the video I said this was the best card in the game or something like that. Um, I mean, I don't even play this card. Like, I don't even put it in my decks. Like, I don't. I mean, people play it, but it's not like shoot first or something. Like, it's not as good as that. It's not as good as Surprise Strike. It's not as good as Waylay. So now you're like digging deep to like want to include this.
No Good to Me
Anyhow,
Dead's another one, right?
yeah, no good to me, Dad. Like, you're just like, this thing's lower on that pecking order. But again, maybe there's a strat that's more just like stalling, stall, outmaneuvers, sanctuaries, bouncing, whatever, play Thrawn, whatever, and then you wipe, and then you play like your ships, and then you win. Like, maybe that's a deck later. We just don't have that deck yet. It's not ready. It's not ready. It's not out of the oven yet. It's still cooking. So,
Like you said, the card's not bad. It's just not the best card in the game.
yep. All right. What's your next one, bud?
Next one is ISB Agent. So I was very high on this card at first. I'm not gonna say I was completely wrong because at that time everyone was playing like Stormtrooper and the 2-1 TIE Fighter, so like this card was just better at that time. But now I think it's kind of relegated entirely to sideboard status for decks that end up having like 1 toughness or 1 health uh, bodies. Or if you're playing Tarkin Town, the red base, this card gets a little better. But that one damage, it's okay, but the opportunity cost of playing a 1/3 is pretty high. Like its body's kind of irrelevant most of the time. So it's not bad. It's just not great. Just kind of middling.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever super high on this guy, but yeah, he's just kind of a sideboard, in case you play against some red villain guy and just ping him or whatever. So he's a niche situation. Okay, here's my next overrated. So it's this dude right here, Grand Moff Tarkin. And man, it's tricky because it's hard to break the mindset that like card draw is like not good in games. Like I've that's been a hard one for me to overcome. But I think cards like Agent Callus or whatever that can manufacture card draw like and still do other stuff, or like a Ezra or something or whatever, like just more like they're giving you more for the cost. I think are better. Like this guy is such a weak body that you're just losing a lot of tempo, and the game is going really fast right now. The bullets are flying, and yeah. So this may again maybe the game changes. Maybe it slows down a little bit, and then he can come back in. But I had to cut him from the green decks just to be able to compete with the Leia Christmas Leia or whatever, red green and the Sabine and all that. Like this guy kind of has been relegated to the binder.
Or he could be in the sideboard for like control mirrors, right? Because that's where that card advantage actually is going to matter the most. So.
Yeah, he's like a sideboard guy. All right, what's your next overrated?
Next one is Black One.
Tell us about it.
Interesting that it's another card draw card. um, I think first read it, thought it would kind of be good to have like a top end card refuel for aggro decks. Completely unnecessary there. I still think the card's actually pretty good in Red Han because it lets you use his ability like every turn for the first 3 turns and then just draw 3, right? Um, I think that's kind of the only place where I think it belongs right now. The body's so weak at 6 cost. Um, that card draw, it's good. It's just like you said, it's not really what the game is about right now. You need to really be going pretty long for that card draw to matter. And in certain games, I think that could happen, and you might want this in your sideboard for those games, but it's not as good as I thought it would be.
Yeah, put it in Red Han for sure, and then you got to really have a game plan if you're putting it elsewhere. All right. So my next overrated is the smuggling compartment. Yeah, I don't know. I think I saw this card and I was like, it's freaking on. This is the poemist card I've ever seen. You're telling me I just can get just resources all up the wazoo. I'm just gonna like just out resource my opponent. Like it's game over. You guys are done for. Like watch me. It just doesn't end up working out that way. Like you have to, even Boba's ability is kind of wonky sometimes to be able to spend that dollar. Like this is in the same kind of vein. It's not like it's giving you an extra resource each round. It's kind of like it's very situational, things like that. I again, maybe I'd get this to work in the future, but it's a little funky right now.
Yeah. And that's probably the weakest part of it is that it's not an extra resource. You have to actually play something before you attack with whatever you put this on.
Yeah,
So you're kind of delaying your attack, which gives them more chances to actually like destroy whatever you put this on.
exactly. All right, what's your next overrated?
Yeah, so the last one I have for this list is It Binds All Things.
Okay.
I just don't think this card is very good, honestly. And I think maybe I'm in the minority a little bit on that. I just think it's so clunky to use. It's uh it's very, very situational. And situational is okay in this game, but I want cards that are situational to be like absolute bangers when you play them. Like Luke's lightsaber falls in that category. Incredibly situational, but completely game flipping when you pull it off. This card is just like your best case scenario is like fine. You killed a thing and healed a little bit. It's like you killed a little thing and healed a little bit. It's like not. It doesn't feel like it ever really pulls its weight, and I feel like I every time I put it back in a deck, it ends up like getting resourced every time I ever draw it. So haven't been playing with it.
Yeah, I think you're in the minority on that a little bit. I think the like you said, it's situational, but I think when you're able to pull this off, it can really shift the game. It's a big deal. I don't know, but I understand what you're saying. Like we still haven't seen all the force units. Hopefully, that we get some more of those in the future. Future sets, things like that. So this card maybe improves, and you build an all force kind of deck, where you're not having to like, have a bunch of other Randys in there. Like you have, it's a force deck, and so then this is gonna proc more often and things like that. All right, so I've got my last overrated, and this can be the last card we talk about here, and that is the Rogue Operative. And I guess it sounds like I was pretty high on this guy. Woo reminded me, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I again, do you use this card? Like, does this go in? It's like,
Sometimes it's like there's like a plethora of those 3 drops in hero aggro, and like you can pick a couple.
yeah, this guy is like really on the fringe of even making it into your cunning list, and I think the fact that he can just be killed and the opponent only takes the two, like, it's kind of like the reason why I don't like the like Cantina Braggart or some of these other kind of raid characters, or it's a little funky for me because they can just be controlled without too much of a cost to the opponent there. So yeah, I think I was a little too high on this guy. But dude, this was fun, man. And
Yeah, for
hopefully,
sure.
we can do this again soon. And it sounds like we want to do more of these kind of videos where we're like just focusing on like really competitive strategies and things like that, giving information to the viewer to help them improve their gameplay, things like that. So,
Yeah,
alrighty,
that'd be great.
sweet. All right, well, if you made it this far, you're my hero.
See you.